Okay, yeah. So welcome to the Linux Administrator demo class, guys. So this is the very first session, and yeah. So the first three sessions it will be the demo, and moving forward, you will see that. Okay. So again, today is the very first demo. So, a little bit of general information. So as I mentioned, the first three sessions will be free to attend all the demo sessions. And from the fourth session, it will be only for the paid candidates. Okay. And it is a paid batch, by the way. And the first two sessions recording will be available in the YouTube channel. Okay. So I'll be sharing that channel link. And from the day three recording, it will be uploaded in the LMS, our logiclabs.tech.com. I'll be showing you that website as well. And please don't do any batch shifting, and no refund is there. And the obviously you you might have joined via this WhatsApp community, right? So if you're not part of this already, so let me say you can join this. Okay. If you're not part of it already. So that's the one. And so if you're having any issues like regarding payment or any technical issues, anything, please reach out to the support team and they will connect it with you. Okay, so you can like ask anything. So it will be sorted out regarding the course. Okay, so yeah, and the availability of their like the support team's availability is from Monday to Saturday between 9 a.m. to 7 a.m. That's the business time. Okay. So these are all the support contacts. So support at logicapstech.com and the contact details are you can call this one right away. Any issues you're facing related to the course, anything. Okay. So you can reach out to this number. These are all the social media links. So this is our website. I will come back to this one at the last. Okay, so I'll show you the YouTube channel and website. So, once again, this is the demo session. Okay. Um, yeah. So a little bit about myself. So Karthik here. So I have around 6+ years of IT experience, and I did my RHCSA certification like few years back. Okay, so I myself need to renew the certificate, but yeah. So the certificate validity is for 3 years. 2022 I did. So this year it is going to expire. Okay. But yeah, it's a we will see what is that certificate about. I'm currently working as a production support specialist in one of the MNC. Okay, so yeah, and handling around almost 9,800 or you can even call it 10,000 servers here in this company. Okay, so yeah. First and foremost, what is Linux? So you might have this question, right? What is Linux and why it is still relevant in IT? So firstly, for the people who are very new to Linux or who literally don't know anything about Linux, Linux is just another operating system like the one which we are using now. So the one which I'm using personally is Windows. Okay, so Microsoft Windows, and you have Mac OS, Windows, Android. Everything is an operating system. Okay, so again, coming back to that question, so what is Linux? Linux is just another operating system, but why companies prefer that? Why can't we use the Android or even Mac OS or even Windows, right? So actually, Windows Server is there. Okay, companies do use it, but not to the up to the scale as Linux is being used, right? So Linux is kind of dominating the. It's like a monopoly these days. So almost like 80% of servers are used worldwide. It doesn't matter if it's a startup or a mid-level company or it's a it will be or they prefer Linux, right? So because there are so many benefits of that. So we'll see what. Okay, but yeah, so that's the Linux as an operating system. And that's the reason companies prefer it, right? So if you see that they have a very good portability is there. Right? So here you see the rights. Ability. So which means you can use it with any type of device. Like it doesn't matter. So especially in data centers, they will use very old uh, hardware, right? So let's say 30 years old. So does your Mac OS support it? No. Obviously, Android is not even 30 years old. So obviously that doesn't work. So Linux has been there for almost 34 years now. So it does support. And if it's not supporting also, we might have a workaround for that. Right. So Linux is that much ease of access. Portability, as I told, you can put so many versions out there. And you even have the forefathers of Linux, which is like Solaris, Unix. So Linux is based on Unix. Okay. So like that, Minix is there. So so many versions are there. So ease of access. And you have the security aspect, which you guys might already know if you Linux before or you used Linux before. So the security threat when it comes to Linux is very less, very less compared to my Windows. So Windows, you might have heard ransomware and CrowdStrike, right? So so many attacks recently in the past 5 years. You might have heard these, which are widely spread throughout the world. Everyone faces these issues, right? It's not just one company also, but when it comes to Linux, you might have never ever heard about any issues or any uh, like virus or any hackers major breach. Obviously, there will be some, but it's not like as much compared to Windows because Linux is way secure and the fun here is the companies or sorry the hackers do create the the hacking tool using Linux version. So you have Kali Linux for that. The OS name is Kali Linux. So that is used to create some penetration tools, and so many hackers do use this Linux. Okay? So like that. So there are so many traits. We will see one by one later sessions, but I will start with first. Okay. So yeah. Now, okay. So we saw the basics about Linux. So what it's just another operating system, but the thing is that um, Linux is not that you might have an as of now an assumption that okay Linux is not that user friendly or it is very hard to learn or it is very how to say without this knowledge you cannot survive, right? So so many things are there. Uh, you might have assumption, but it's not that. Okay, so you can easily learn it, and again you must understand it, right? So it's not a very huge thing. You're not doing any programming or something, right? So you're just doing just another day-to-day activity. Let's say you want to do some, let's say listening music or you want to browse the internet. Day-to-day activity like anyone can do. But in Windows, since you're using GUI, right? So what is GUI and CLI? So since you're using GUI, it will be easy for usage, right? So let me quickly explain this. Firstly, what is GUI? So GUI is graphical user interface, which means have a graphical element for everything. Yeah, right. So you have basically a cursor. You're using that to navigate through every icon, or the application is responding to that icon, right? So literally, you are using the even the cursor is a like a graphical element, right? So like that, if you go to settings, so you have these. If you want to go to update, right? So like that, each and every field here, it's a graphical element is there. Whereas in Linux, still Linux also does have graphical. It's not like okay, Linux there is literally no GUI. It does have, but the major usage is CLI, Now, a Windows example is also there for CLI, which is nothing but command. This is what you start. CMD you type. It will prompt for the command prompt is there. So what it is basically, you have this blinking cursor, right? You cannot double click anything here. So if I type BIR, so I cannot simply type just like ChatGPT or something, create a direct. So if I type this, that's my command prompt understands create or this letter A or directly. It doesn't. Only if I type the specific command, it does understand it. Hence the name command line. Getting the point, right? So without that specific command, you cannot interact with the machine. So now, okay, you might say that, okay, command prompt I never use. These days, it is obviously only the Windows admins use, right? Or the Windows enthusiasts use it. Except that almost none, right? So no one uses the command prompt. So that's what. But in those days, let's say maybe 30 years back, so late 1980s to 1990s. So at that time, the personal computer space was booming, and it was MS-DOS, right? So MS-DOS is like a only command prompt used to be there. Okay, so there is no GUI at that time. So these are all the things which they came up during that time, or the commands which execute certain tasks. Okay, so hence the name command line interface. Okay, so these two are the way to interact with the machine. Okay, so the next one is why RHCSA, or now what is RH? So not to understand that, let me open this browser and go to. Before Red Hat, we have to see, we need to see a site named as DistroWatch. What is this site? Is basically, okay, so let it go. Okay, so if you see here, this is a site dedicated for Linux distributions. Okay, so as I told, Linux is a stability is there, and the very first thing in Linux which Windows or even Mac OS lacks is and okay. So now let's give an understanding of what is open source and closed source. If you understand that only, you can easily you must know this. Okay, so what is open source? Open source means the kernel itself is released to anyone, they can see it. So this is like the heart of your system, kernel. So even in Windows, there is a kernel. It's not the same thing, obviously, but all these operating systems, right? So basically, the list you see in the right, these lists, it's as each and every thing you see is a Linux-based operating system. You see how many other, and this is just 100 rank because there is around thousands of Linux distributions out there, and this is like based on the usage, which one is top, and this list will be refreshing every month or so. So you cannot predict that okay, this will be the top one. So and there is even a separate community for each and every versions. Okay? But you see, this is the kind of so let me go to the origin of Linux, which is this guy named as Linus Torvalds. He's the one who came up with this kernel, not the entire operating system. He tried to create this kernel. And the first version of the kernel, why I'm specifically mentioning first version is that he contributed with these many people. You see, almost 17,000 contributors are there. And even you can contribute because it's an open source. Anyone with the programming knowledge, and these are all languages used. So if you have this knowledge, really very good at it, then you can contribute to this project. Again, this is an ongoing project, and every day you see 19 hours ago, there is a change in documentation or something. Right? So like that, it's a very active one. And you see how many stars are there, 4 stars. Right? So basically, it's a very important kernel in the IT industries. Okay. So after this being an open source, anyone can create their own operating system. So before this, it was not that easy, guys. Okay, so you can, but at that time it was very restricted and very limited. Okay, so whereas this guy broke that and he created it open source. And how about closed source? The example is nothing but your Windows again. So in Windows, can you remove this icon? Let's say Windows security. I don't want Windows security. I have my own antivirus. Can I remove this icon then? Or this whole settings? Remove it? No. If you somehow remove it also, Windows will do an update and it will be again patched. So you see this Windows update, right? This security will be back within the next update. So like that, um, it is closed source and you cannot edit. Let's say I don't want it to be shown as backup here. It should be like some other word, right? So you cannot edit, unfortunately, Windows, because all this source code is maintained by Microsoft, not you, right? So whereas here also you are not maintaining, but it is open source. You can even see it. And now you might ask, okay, what is this the only open source software? No. There are like tons of open source software. One more example would be your VLC media. You might have heard VLC media player, right? That is again one very good example of open source software, right? So yeah, you see these very contributors are there, and this is again an active. And so yeah, so like that, so many famous open source softwares are out there, and using that only they created their own. So many developers out there, they created their own version of Linux and they released in the internet. So in that, one of the operating system which was way ahead of its time and targeted the enterprise. Now, what is enterprise here? It's nothing but companies. Any huge company, or in those days they were even startups, right? So not there were not many IT companies in those like 1990s. So they were, but not much. So yeah, so Red Hat, you see, it's a 50th place, but actually they are the monopoly out there. So companies, there is around 72 percentage of companies prefer Red Hat out than some other, like let's say Ubuntu there. So many versions out there, but Red Hat is the predominant. Okay, fine. Now let me go to the actual Red Hat side. And Red Hat is currently owned by IBM. Okay, so they bought like a few years back, and it's under IBM's belt. And so many tools and parts out there. So if you see all the products, it's a very huge list. Okay, so the very first thing is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It's nothing but the actual OS. So just like we mentioned, Windows, Microsoft Windows 11, like that, right? So similarly here it is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So basically, from the name itself, they target the enterprise, means the companies, right? So it's not meant for end users, but you can even try, right? So you can use it. It's not that hard also. So yeah, it's not like okay, only you should pay to use it. Anyone can use it. Right. So you have OpenShift under their belt. Ansible. So Ansible is an automation tool which is very widely used these days. That is also owned by Red Hat. We have some other products like OSP. So if you see cloud platform, so they have their own cloud platform called as OpenShift Cloud Platform. Okay, so uh, yeah, OCP, and for virtualization also, so OpenStack is there, and nowadays there is AI also. So yeah, it's a very emerging and very good company. So, yeah. So why I brought this up is actually our course will revolve around the Red Hat. We're going to use their operating system, and we're going to see how to crack this exam in English. Red Hat certificate. So it is very easy at the entry level exam. Okay? And this exams details maybe we'll see tomorrow, but as of now, we will proceed further. Okay? But it's their certification, an official certification, and it has its own credibility out of. There are so many guides. So LFCS is there, uh, PIA plus is there, and a few more are there. Okay? But out of these, Red Hat, especially RHCSA, has a very good upper hand at the recognition. Because if you mention this in your resume or you mention this in your interview, you have your own way of, or the interviewer will get an affirmation that hey, this guy knows something, which is like almost, uh, you can compare if you're having RHCSA certificate with a 2 year experience. At least 2 years of knowledge this guy has. He's a fresher. You're getting the point, right? So that's the reason you're doing any certification. It's not like RHCSA. Any certificate you do, why you're doing it in the first place. So you need to get an hands-on and understanding before even starting that in your work environment. Or once you got the certificate, then only they will assign the project. Just like any companies these days, they will urge you to create. Sorry, they will urge you to do that certificate. So basically, they even pay for that, but still, um, there is a push from the companies end, especially these days, to do any certificate, especially like the cloud, like enterprise means it is Red Hat, so many other. Okay, yeah. So this is the roadmap we are going to see, guys. Okay, so one is user management, which is very important in any company on any aspect. Users must be managed. It doesn't matter, right? So because without users can we do anything? No, right? And there is a thing called as permissions. So you need to figure out. It's not like anything can be accessed by anyone. No, that's not how the even a simple startup doesn't work like that, right? So there should be a restriction or privilege, right? So many things we will consider, and we will be seeing every nook and corner of user management in our course, okay? Especially related to Linux. It's not like the entirety of user management we will see, but anything related to Linux for sure. We must. Okay? And again, one more thing is Linux is a necessity these days, guys. As I told, they are like a monopoly, right? So let's say you are placed in a company, even as a developer, you need to know at least the basics of Linux. Means the basic commands like copy command, um, at least print out, bare minimum commands you should know. Okay? It's a necessity. It's not like an option these days. You must. Okay? Right. So the next one is disk management. So like disk in the sense, we literally take it for granted in our own system, right? So we don't manage any disks. Yeah. Let's say let me go to disk management. In Windows, we literally throw our let's say some important document along with that some entertainment files, right? So like that, you literally keep everything together. You won't sort it, or there is no need to sort it out because at the end you are the one using it, right? Whereas in companies, can you put like that for every project? No, there should be a separate partition between each and every project, and it will be clearly labeled, It would be because each and every disk companies spend a lot of money for disks or storage space. So it should be labeled and it should be maintained. So many things are considered. So disk management is one of the key factors, especially for the system. Okay, because he's the only guy who have the privilege to even create a disk or a partition, right? So that's the thing. As a sysadmin, you this is a very important topic. Okay? Going to the next one, which is the process management. So what is the process? Even a simple thing. So the key which I pressed, right? So Windows, that is a process. Right click, that is a process. Task manager. So each and everything is a process to the system. So it's not like as a human, we have our own signals, right? So similarly, in any system you take, each and every process is a signal to the CPU, memory, disk, network if it is used, and GPU. So these are all nothing but system. That's each and every system resource comes together and serve the content to us. Can be any. Let's say you are using a system just to watch uh, social media, something, right? So still the system need to process something. It need to load the browser or it need to load something like file explorer, right? Whereas without any process, it cannot do anything. So you see the processes count. It is 150 now. So where meaning I'm using Zoho meeting and what else? Google Chrome is running. Uh, so these are all the processes. If I sort it, there is a system process and like yeah, these are all system processes, means Windows process, and these are all background and foreground is there. Okay? So we will see those things, what all those later. But as of now, CPU, memory, GPU, and these five are the core components of system resource and how it is being distributed, the load and everything. So that's what as a admin will manage in the server troubleshoot. So let's say if a CPU is not exactly or it's not placed correctly or if the in the hardware level, I'm saying, not in the software. So let's say in software level, if the CPU is not compatible with one of the application, right? So it might not work in that CPU architecture. So like that, so many issues you might face in the like in your work environment. So you need to figure out how it is done, right? So that's not only CPU, any hardware you see here. So right, so these are all hardwares, by the way. So in my case, I'm using a PC, and so basically I have 8 cores of CPU. See, 8. Memory is again 8. Disk, I have actually 3 disks. So like that, I'm limited with the hardware, right? So, but how efficiently I want it to be used for any process. Again, this is my base mission. So I don't have any third-party applications. Means some in your company, some other teams application will be running, right? So in that case, how efficiently it is running, and is there any bottleneck? So bottleneck means the CPU will be very good. Means the CPU you bought a very latest CPU, but you're having a very old disk as well as memory. So even though you have a very good CPU, it cannot reach its full potential just because of this memory and disk being like let's say 10 years old. You're getting the point, right? So that's what called as bottleneck. Okay? So like that, based on these 5 resources, how efficiently we are going to allocate it. If it is not allocated, also how it can be fixed. So all those you'll be seeing in the system diagnostics. Server troubleshooting. So if something went wrong, you will be in the position to answer it. As I told, only sysadmin have the privilege to do anything related to your server. Literally anything, not even an application team. Actually, the currently my role is production support specialist. Even I don't have full privilege for that. So I myself don't have a root user for some servers. Those servers are maintained by a dedicated Unix team, which I'm not. Okay, so like that, each and every company have their own way of approach. But the very first role you will be placed is sysadmin. And you will be the one having the access for root, which is nothing but administrator access. So you will be doing any troubleshooting, anything related to server, like configuration, fixing it, RC, root cause analysis, right? So these kind of things are a mandatory job for a system. The next one, or the last one, which is called as basic network. And why I deliberately mentioned as basic was networking as a itself is a huge subject test. So I don't want to get too much into networking. What are all the basic necessity for a system networking knowledge, right? So only that we will tap in and will understand. Okay? So, yeah. And so let's move on to the actual syllabus. I'll be quickly going through the, it's the exactly same thing what I mentioned here, but we'll quickly see what all these. So, yeah. So the very first thing is introduction to RHEL 8. So currently the RHEL 10 itself released. Okay, so why RHEL 8? So that is a very good question you might ask because um, I myself only mentioned this, right? So RHEL 8 and 9 is what companies prefer these days. Okay? It's not like, okay, RHEL 10 is released, let me update everything. Obviously, you can do like that in your own mobile or even in your own system. You cannot do that for literally thousands of servers, right? So that's the reason this is not ideal to learn only RHEL 10, which is the latest, right? So we will see RHEL 8 and 9. So both are not that different. Okay, so in AWS, actually, we'll be seeing RHEL 9. In local machine, we'll be installing RHEL 8. Okay, so the minimum criteria is RHEL 8. So, but you should not go prior to that. Means RHEL 7 you are not supposed to use because there is a major difference between RHEL 7 and RHEL 8. Okay, so you should never use that. But RHEL 8, 9, even 10, there is not major difference. Okay, so that's the reason you can use from RHEL 8. Okay. The next thing is essential or advanced Linux commands. So you might have heard, or if not, Linux is all about commands. As I told, it's a CLI we are going to use. So it's not like only CLI. We will install even GUI. I will show you the user interface, but it won't be on your production servers. We'll never use the GUI. So only CLI is what being used. Why that also we will see later. Okay, so due to the resource crunch, because trust me, whenever you turn on your system, especially in Windows, immediately the memory is like 2 GB will be utilized for your OS. In the 2 GB, basically almost like 1.5 GB or more than that will be used just for your GUI. Graphical user interface itself will be consuming that much of memory. Right? So because all these elements should be loaded, just icons, everything is already pre-built, but it should load immediately when I press the key. Let's say I want to open even VM. So immediately once I press this, the process and it did open. You're getting the point, right? So that's how it is. So it all will be loaded in the memory one. That's the reason. For GUI based operating system, the memory must be high. So in my case itself, 8 GB is not that efficient, but still I'm using it. Okay, so it's enough. But if I want a very good performance out of my system, I need to upgrade this. Okay, so yeah, coming back to the point. So commands or CLI is what we are going to use, and there is around 2000 plus commands that are used. We see everything, obviously, right? But we will be seeing the important commands, right? And the essential one, which is almost like 100 plus commands. At least in those commands, every important option will be discussed. What is an option? We will discuss later. So in the sessions, we will discuss that. And the next one is actual installation part. So that we don't, Logic Labs doesn't provide any lab space. So you need to install. But don't worry about the installation part. I'll be instructing you how to install each and every step. It's already documented, and I will even show you in the next session or upcoming session. But that's how we are going to use. So we are going to use a virtual machine, right? So using VMware, we are going to create it, or you can use anything. So you have VMware virtual box, Nutanix, so many options out there. But yeah, we are going to use VMware because companies actually use VMware. There's a reason for that. We will discuss that later. While we see the virtualization concept, we will discuss that. And next one is AWS, which is nothing but a cloud service provider. Is that only AWS we are going to see? Yes and no. Why? Because GCP also is there, but GCP these days are a bit hard to handle. Means the payment structure is a bit weird in India, especially. So they will ask for the PAN card and they will sometimes reject. In my case, they did reject my PAN card. I'm not sure why, but they do verify a lot in GCP. I used to use GCP for past 2 years, but nowadays it's a bit weird. Every year you should submit your PAN card, and so many things are needed just to use the platform. Whereas AWS doesn't ask many things. Even Azure is a good one, but Azure, the issue is it is not free. Okay, so Azure, $100 they give as a trial, but it is only for students, actual students. Okay, so if you're working means you cannot use it, obviously, because they do ask for ID card, the college details, everything. They do verify really, and then only they will give the $100 as a free trial. Whereas AWS, they're giving free tier, which is of 1 year help, which is great. Okay. So we'll be using AWS. And so the next one is performance monitoring. So now you made us. So we monitor our system using Task Manager for Windows. Similarly, one tool is there for Linux, but the issue is how many things we can monitor at the same time. Let's say I can monitor maybe 3 systems or even 4. How about 4,000 or 40,000 servers? It is impossible, right? So you need 40,000 employees to do the task. So instead of that, you have monitoring tools. Monitoring tools, if you search, there are so many out there. And you should know at least the basics of these many tools are there. We have one more image. So, please, yeah. No, please. Those are all sites. These are all the ones. So you have under this, you have these are all total DevOps tools. So the monitoring tools, so many are there, guys. So you have Zabbix, which in our company also we use. We have Prometheus, Grafana, and Dynatrace, which is a very famous tool for APM, application process management. So very, very important tool. Dynatrace and Nagios is there. Splunk is for log monitoring. right? So like that, you have so many tools there. So like um, ELK stack, right? So Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. So like that, so many tools are there. So in this, at least one tool, you need to know not the entire thing, but basics. Okay, so at least how the alert works, or how to set up the alert, what is threshold. So basics. So I will try to show you how it is done, but not right away. At the last, we will see this. Okay, so I will set up maybe New Relic. It's an open source tool. New Relic is very easy. It's a free tool. No, sorry, not open source. It's a free tool. And we'll be seeing that. Okay, so, yeah, so that's the performance monitoring. But within the server also, how the command level monitoring works, everything. We'll discuss. Okay. The next one is you have the user management, as I told. How to create the user, how to manipulate the user, everything will be discussed. Okay, so it's a very interesting way of approaching this. So in Windows, also it is good, but in Windows it's a very typical way we use. Right? So, um, but in Linux, it's very intricate that even a granular level you can modify. Very basic, you might see that even that level of modification is great. Even in Windows or any system doesn't allow that much of modification. Okay? So yeah, there is a concept called super user, which we will be discussing. So very important and interesting one as well. The next one is the basic OS concepts, which is understanding the essential tools and commands and all, and grep or the search command, and how to access the servers remotely. So these are all the basic concepts which, as a sysadmin, you must know. You will see everything. Okay, so whatever you see here, not only this, the entire slide you will see, and based on this concepts only, the exam is being taken. Okay, so yeah, how to archive. So firstly, what is archive? To store the old data. So how archive works, how the log archive works, right? So everything we discuss, and how to manipulate the files and directories. That one. How to create hard link, soft link, file permissions, which is again an unique perspective. Even Windows have the same read, write, execute permission, but in Windows it works in a different way. But in Linux it's totally different and very convenient to modify if needed also. That's this one. And the system admin activities, like you have the basic one, boot to the server. If something went wrong, how to interrupt the server, right? So yeah, so how to identify the CPU and memory intensive processes. Like if something is, there is a spike in CPU, right? So there is a spike in memory, CPU, and all. In this case, using Google Chrome is the highest usage. Uh, we need to figure out in a production environment, there are multiple applications there. So which one is mostly used? So that one you can mention. Or how to identify. That's the whole concept we're going to discuss there. And how to locate and interrupt a system log files and journals, right? So understanding a log file itself is a skill, which we will unlock in upcoming sessions. But yeah, so how? Because without a log file, you cannot do anything, right? So because log file is like an evidence, as well as it's a starting point for the investigation. So without investigating some issues, and all the issues will be logged basically. So without that, you cannot do anything. So understanding log files is again a necessity for the sysadmin, and it's a skill as well. Okay. And the next one is how to preserve the system logs. So it's a few logs actually is encrypted, and you cannot preserve. So you'll see how to do that. Again, those are all combined. You will be seeing on the session itself. And how to again manipulate start, stop, check, restart. Right. So any system service, how it is done, we'll be discussing here. And how about transferring the files between different operating systems. So how to transfer file between Windows Server to Linux. Right, so between Linux to Linux. So all those would be discussed in this one. How about server patching? So firstly, let me give a basic idea of what is patching. So a very easy example is you guys use Android phone or iOS, right? So in Android or iOS or any operating system, every now and then they will send an update. Even in Windows, we saw just a while back there is an update. What is the need for an update? Anyhow, we install the operating system, it is totally working fine. But why there is a need for an update is there might be a lot of bugs. Bug means let's say you right click here, it doesn't right click. Or if you click something, it doesn't open. So that's a bug. Okay? And those small bugs will be fixed and cumulatively fixed in the code. And that code will be pushed to every system. Right? So that's the reason in Android you'll get a feature update or a security update. Right? So if there is a vulnerability, so vulnerability means let's say someone again it's not like uh, my phone doesn't have that much information. If it is hacked also, that I'm totally fine. You are fine, but it's not just the operating system is not built only for you, right? It's a common one for anyone. Obviously, the guy who is using that mobile for a very secure job, he or she will need that update because it's a vulnerability, right? So uh, someone can use that bug or the backdoor, and they will use that operating system, right? So like that, we need to patch it. So hence the name patching. Okay, so yeah, so we'll see how the server patching everything works in detail. So satellite patching and all we'll discuss. That is a BAU task for system. BAU means business as usual task. It's every day or every week at least you'll be doing it. Okay, so the next one is LVM. So, so how to create a physical volume, how to manipulate the volume groups, right? So how to extend, resize, remove, right? So everything we'll be discussing related to this. So LVM is very important concept, guys. So as I told, disk management only you can do. So once you're placed, only the sysadmin can do. Okay, so that's how important it is. So yeah, and how to format it. So there are different file systems. How to format, how to diagnose if something went wrong, right? So those things we'll be discussing. And there's a two concept called as stratus and video, which we will discuss. Okay? So the next one is security aspect. So any server, you have key-based authentication, right? So which one is way more secure? Guys, can someone put it in the chat? Is it password-based or key-based? Again, as per your understanding, which one might be waste? Or let me rephrase it. So is it password-based or passwordless? There are two types actually. So password-based. Someone put in the chat. Passwordless. So password-based is what we hold, but unfortunately, that's not that secure compared to passwordless. Okay, so even though obviously we are used to password-based, like we are using it in banking, but everywhere, right? Even in our social media or any site you take, you set a password. But the passwordless is way secure because it's actually using a key-based authentication, which in detail we'll be discussing in upcoming sessions. Okay? So there is a private key, public key, and I'm not denying that. Okay, password based also it is encrypted, but this key is very reliable, and the encryption is okay. Let me put it in this way. So the banking which you store, right, the data which you store, or let me rephrase it. So the transactions you transfer, right? So let's say you send in 10 rupees UPI to someone. So that is a transaction and that is actually encrypted, right? So no one in between should know that, okay, this guy sent from so and so. Obviously, you know that and the receiver knows it. In between, let's say someone is there who's trying to tap your connection and know that, not supposed to know. So that's what called as encryption. We'll see what is encryption and much detail later sessions. So very important concept is encryption is the back end of key-based authentication. So we'll discuss for sure. And same thing goes for firewall. And there is one concept called as SC Linux, so security enhanced Linux. The firewall is there is a hardware firewall. Literally, there is a device called as firewall. Okay, and there is software level firewall. Okay, so we'll be discussing both how it is done and SC Linux. So it is means there is one more layer of protection for each and every file out there, file and directory, and how it is done. We'll see how to restrict the user to use a certain path, only certain path he can use, or certain commands. How to do that? That we'll be discussing. And as I mentioned, basic networking. So we'll be discussing that for sure. How to set a host name, networking services, right? So like all so many commands are there, right? So IO stat. For network, it is netstat, right? So like that, so many commands are there. We'll be discussing one day. Okay, so that's done. And lastly, we have containers. So for container, so you might have heard a container concept like Docker or Kubernetes, but in Red Hat, they themselves own their own container service named as Podman. Okay, so that's what we are going to use, and you can even mention this in your resume. Okay, so this is a part of your exam as well as you can mention it in your resume. Okay, how to configure it and how to create a startup services, so on and so on. And the last one is VMware vSphere. Okay, so how to use this VMware vSphere because it's not this VMware used in your companies. So this is a commercial one, right? So like end user like us, whereas in your companies they use VMware vSphere, which is this one. So like this, the UI will be like this. I will try to install this and show at the last sessions, right? Because this is a very heavy tool. It's like 150 GB of storage it will take. Try to install and show it. With that, our syllabus is done. Any questions, please, on this syllabus part or anything? And so this is a paid course as I told, and the course fees is around 4,720 INR. And if you are from other countries, it's 57 US dollars. And the duration is of 4 weeks from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And 4 weeks is it's an approximate time. Okay, so it minimum 4 weeks of content is there, and based on your doubts or based on your like if you want me to repeat a question or repeat a concept, based on that it will increase to 5 weeks or even much more than that. Again, totally up to you. Okay? So yeah, and please do reach out to these numbers if you have any doubts. Uh, After the batch, also you can reach out to these numbers. We will get. So lastly, as I told, I will show you social media links. Who is the target audience for this course? So let's say you're starting your career with Linux. This you literally made a very good choice. I appreciate that, and because trust me, if you want to go via let's say a developer from a developer, let's say a Python developer, it's good. But the thing is that you should at least study for 1 year these days. It's not just Python, you should know some framework. Okay? So it's just a bit hard. and it's a very huge one. So getting a job at even these days, it is too hard. So it will be at least 1 year and more than that. How about uh, okay, developer visa, even .NET developer. .NET is a Microsoft owned, and even this takes at least 6 months to 1 year. So whereas Linux or even Windows Server or even Citrix. So these are all the roles which immediately you can on, let's say 2 months. Simple, at least this one. If you put your time together, within 1 month, you can literally crack interviews, or at least you'll be confident to attend the interviews for Linux. And one more advantage is you can do a certification here just for the information for the interviewers. So that you can show off in your resume that you know something in Linux, right? So like that, you have Windows Server certificate is there, Citrix certificate is there. So because this is a different route compared to these. Right? So yeah, and once you're done with this, you can apply for sysadmin, especially Linux sysadmin, and this is from 0 years to 2 years. So for fresher to 2 years, you can apply, and after that, you can apply for system engineer, which is from 2 to 4 years of experience. And after that, you can go for DevOps engineer. So, even 3 years itself, DevOps people are there at least 3 to 5 years. And above that, you have platform engineer. Even DevOps also comes under this category. Uh, so this is around 5 plus. And you have SRE, Site Reliability Engineer, and this guy is around 8 plus. So this is a different career path. So because as a Linux guy, you will never go back to Python, or you won't be doing any other. Okay, so and that's a very important statement I'm giving in the very first itself. And is this a good career path? Obviously. Will you get the same salary as your counterpart developers? Yes, you will even get even more salary based on your job role, because here you will not work only with Python, which is a bit boring as after a few years. Whereas here you'll be working with like tens or even 50 plus tools are there. Right? So it doesn't matter. Let's say one project you work in a certain group, the next project itself they might change. But the baseline is the same thing. But the tool will change. You'll be having a lot of interaction with developers, but you won't be replacing them, or there won't be any issues for your career. So okay, so you might ask, okay, how about AI? Will they replace the sysadmin? No, they will create more sysadmin, because backend of AI, it's nothing but servers and data. So without data and servers, you cannot do anything. For sure. Yeah, this program is more than enough for you to get the certification and job. I can assure you. Yes, there will be dumps. That's a very good point you brought. Uh, yeah, so tomorrow I'll be sharing maybe the link. You can see the question paper. But now you can see this. So this is the question paper. Okay, so please bookmark this link. Okay. So even there is a shortener for this. It's easy. So it will redirect to the same drive. So I can assure you, for sure, you can clear the exam. And this is my 20th batch, I think, with Logic Labs. So I trained around 700 plus students. So you can trust me. And recently, also one of my senior passed. I only trained here. So yeah, doesn't matter. For sure, you can clear. And as I told, even a senior guy does RHCSA exam. Okay, so even 10 years plus experience does it. Okay, so it's not like a entry level, only freshers can are eligible. Nothing like that. you can do it. And one more interesting thing about this exam is it is a practical based exam. So you will never see a AMC. It's the main reason companies prefer this exam over any other one. Okay, so very, very important one. So without knowing a command, you cannot answer that as simple as that. Let's say without knowing system tuning command, you cannot answer this question, right? So again, don't be overwhelmed that okay, is it that hard? No, it will be easy. And whatever thing I explained in the syllabus, it will be here. See, uh, let's say AC response, file permissions, this is user management, this is like system management, right? So those things. These are all your disk management. So you're kind of so like that. The whole syllabus is based on this exams question. It's not only that, much more, but it revolves around this question paper every now and then. Last, I will explain every question. So one for your point. Okay. So yeah. So that's it, guys. I have a meeting now. Let me stop it here. So tomorrow at the same time, we'll see guys. Okay. Yeah. Thanks all them. Today's recording will be uploaded in the YouTube channel. And sorry, I was doing the YouTube channel. So we'll see the rest in the next session, guys. Okay. So then, see you tomorrow. Bye.